Miranda Lambert's sincerity and powerful voice have touched everyone, although others have accused her of being entitled for criticizing followers. Thanks to her extraordinary skill, she is able to evoke profound emotional responses from her listeners even when she sings about sensitive subjects like domestic violence, heartbreak, and self-empowerment. Her extraordinary talent for drawing from her own life experiences is what truly distinguishes her. And as we follow Miranda's story, we see the terrible battle that exists beneath the surface of the glitzy music and fame industry. Longview, Texas is the site of Miranda Lee Lambert's birth on November 10, 1983. After her great-grandmother, Rick and Bev Lambert chose the name Lucy Miranda for their daughter. In the 70s, her dad, Rick, worked as a police officer in Dallas. Beyond that, he could play guitar and make songs, and even had a band named Contraband that played country rock. Rick and his wife established their private investigation firm in Longview after the birth of their daughter, Miranda. Because of their skill, Rick and Bev quickly became successful. Their daughter was already an integral part of the team, assigned to handle unique cases by the time she was 7 years old. They expanded their family with a new home, 2 vehicles, canines, and a few animals. Before the oil catastrophe at the decade's end crippled the Texas economy, everything was running well. As a result, the family quickly lost everything they owned. Bev wanted a fresh start, so she and her family relocated to Lindale, a tiny town with a school system she liked. Miranda was enrolled in the 1st grade, and she rented some acres to house their livestock. The kids and the animals improved, but Rick deteriorated. He was suffering from depression and was a damaged guy. On a regular basis, he would make the long trek to Dallas in search of employment, but his melancholy got worse. They rented a tiny house that was rat-ridden but which they managed to patch up such that it could be lived in. Bev would drop Miranda off at school each day, and then she would go back to the farm to tend to the animals and say a prayer. "Please, God, put a solid foundation under me," she prayed. In response to Bev's prayers, an elderly pastor offered her a larger farmhouse to remodel in exchange for a lower rent and a better residence a few months later. The elderly man, according to Bev, had received a message from God. After some time in Lindale, Paula Jones's attorneys retained Bev and Rick to look into Bill Clinton. They toiled away for 2.5 years to collect the documents that would be utilized to subpoena Clinton. The couple started a faith-based charity that provided a safe haven for children and victims of domestic violence with the financial security that came from finishing such a prominent work. "It is merely a dilapidated farmhouse," Miranda clarified. "Those city dwellers I knew had pools and four-wheelers and all that schmancy stuff. They never stopped, even though we had a vegetable garden and lived in the country. Come on, let's visit your place." Why, I wonder. It finally clicked with me it was because my house was so cozy. Not a single soul was turned away. She was engrossed with her studies throughout. She was a dedicated and hardworking young lady in other areas of her life, regardless of how her grades turned out. She was an enthusiastic member of her church band. At the height of Garth Brooks' fame, when she was 10 years old, her father took her to a concert. "I want to do it someday, Papa," Miranda said her father as they were riding home. She had only ever performed in the church praise band up until this moment. Not long after her father assured her she could, he began pressuring her to pick up the guitar. But Miranda simply wasn't enthusiastic. At 14 years old, he finally bought her a guitar, but she still wasn't into it. Miranda, according to her dad, was participating in all the typical activities that girls her age do: cheering, dancing, and hanging out with friends. She went through the ups and downs of high school like any other adolescent. She struggled with her sense of self-worth and how she looked. She blamed her self-described horrible appearance on her regular attire of baggy slacks and t-shirts and her total absence of cosmetics. The love of her family more than made up for her adolescent fashion faux pas, which may have caused her some distress. Despite the difficulties that came with her parents' private investigative firm, she had a special bond with her brother Luke and a supportive family dynamic as she grew up. Even though Miranda and her brother were not physically hurt, they were emotionally burdened by the effects of their parents' profession. However, it had the opposite effect of weakening the children and instead strengthened them. She felt prepared to compete in the True Value Country Showdown after hearing the commercial for it on the radio when she was 16 years old. When she informed her parents she was interested in entering, they got behind her recording 2 of her dad's original compositions. She was given permission to participate in the event. Though she came up short, the constructive criticism she received served to boost her spirits. Arlington, Texas's Johnny High Country Music Review was her professional singing debut. LeAnn Rimes' career got its start on this very talent program. It was a disappointing experience for her after she went to Nashville to record a demo following a musical conference. She felt irate because she was compelled to record solely pop music, which she deemed terrible and corny. I sobbed in the studio as she recounted what transpired thereafter. We had zero funds available when my dad spent $6,000 on those demonstrations. That was awful. Since I was able to figure out what I wanted to do in just 3 hours, he claims it was an inexpensive lesson. Upon leaving the studio, Miranda went home to beg her father to teach her guitar so she could be her own boss when it came to songwriting. Right away, she began penning musical compositions. To put it simply, it's the one thing that has ever been innate to me, she said, describing the newfound talent. It was a struggle for me. I was terrible in class. Softball was the only sport in which I was competent. There was something I needed to put some effort into. As a cheerleader, I was always required to remain after each game. When I was younger, music was the first area in which my talent shone through. She started her band, the Texas Pride Band, while she was a high school student. The Gypsy Tea Room in Deep Ellum was their first professional singing gig in Dallas. Miranda then joined the group for live performances as the house band at Longview's renowned Rio Palmile Ballroom, which was 45 miles away from their home. There she was required to put on a 4-hour performance 3 evenings a week. On many mornings, she would return to Lindale at about 4 o'clock and then wake up for school. My parents were taken aback by my level of enthusiasm, but they essentially put everything on hold and gave it their all, Miranda said. Songs were learned in abundance. Bands and inebriates are no longer problems for me. I had to learn really fast because it was a crash course. She said that just now her biggest worry was about her future. I would reassure my 17-year-old self that everything will be all right, she said, revealing her anxiety about the future. Talent contests were the subject of her mother's studies. After a while, she landed one in Dallas. That sealed the deal with an agency, and Miranda landed a cameo in a commercial for Ruffles potato chips and a role in the 2001 adolescent comedy Slapper. Her native country is France. Miranda also placed second out of 400 contestants for the part of Tammy in Nashville. Her 10-track self-titled debut album came out the same year. The $2,000 CD with the songs was funded by her father, and her brother Luke made a website to sell it. Plus, her mom transported her to venues like nightclubs and radio stations so she could promote her music and get gigs. A motorhome, sound system, and equipment trailer were all part of the package the family purchased. She dropped out of high school early to focus on her singing career. This is my college, she declared at the time. The things I've learned from simply being in the field cannot be taught in a classroom. Because the clubs think girls can't draw, getting in was tough at first. Plus, you are expected to sing Broken Wing on stage. Neither do I. I write and play guitar. During 2002, Miranda performed on the music circuit in her native state of Texas and had 2 songs from her CD play on the state's charts. She competed in yet another talent show in January 2003, this time qualifying for the Nashville Star competition, which was broadcast nationally. She won the Texas auditions. At the age of 13, Miranda made her first solo relocation to Nashville for a role in the TV show. At the end of the show's 5th season, she had competed with 8,000 other people and placed 3rd. She contributed to the Sony CD that winner Buddy Jewel was working on. One Sony music producer and judge on Nashville Star, Tracy Gershon, took note of Miranda while she was on the show, the label to put her signature on it. Miranda herself became a Sony artist on September 15, 2003. Miranda expressed her gratitude for the event that led to her signing, saying, "I always say that Nashville Star saved me from 5 more years in the honky-tonks." However, she did mention that signing that recording contract was still something that terrified her to death. My biggest fear was that they would try to alter who I am. My biggest fear was that they would record my unique songs in the same way as every other record on the market. It was important to me that it not sound like every other Nashville album. Everybody knows my style. I long to stand on my own 2 feet. Blonde girls abound, they're all talented singers. I've always aspired to stand apart. The answer was obvious to her. Come clean or I'll send you packing. She detailed the meeting's progress with Sony executives. Our group met. Everyone from Sony was present. Okay, this is me, I thought as I took my place at the head of the table, crossed my arms and sat down. I only outlined it. My home is in Texas. My writing is original. I must express myself. Showing off my figure in a halter top is something I will never do. I will never stop strumming my guitar. I would prefer to return to Texas and perform as before if I am unable to create an album that accurately portrays who I am. Please let me know right away if you intend to be my boss. Miranda felt a knot in her stomach. However, her account indicates that the following remarks made by the label chief startled her. "Go make your record," John Grady told her. The summer of 2004 saw the release of her debut album, Kerosene. She was involved in the songwriting process for 11 of the album's 12 tunes. Her dad and Heather Little collaborated on the song Me and Charlie Talking, which is the first single. According to Miranda, no one showed up to the studio, thus John Grady kept his promise.
It was a completely silent party. I gave them a listen to the songs a few months down the road. Everyone thought you were fantastic. Except that it was actually happening to her, it was nearly inconceivable. There must be some mistake here, Miranda said. The journey has been remarkably smooth. Brick by brick, this route has been constructed down. However, she came to the realization that she was intended to do this after that. I can hardly contain my excitement. I feel like I'm right in the middle of the action. The album soared to the top of Billboard's top country albums rankings upon its debut. After more than 1 million copies sold, the RIAA declared it platinum. The album's title tune was one of 4 songs to reach the top 40 on Billboard Country, while the other 2 reached the top 20. Toby Keith, Keith Urban and Dierks Bentley were among Miranda's tour companions. She took home the CoverGirl Fresh Face of Country Music Award at 2005's 40th Annual Academy of Country Music Awards in Las Vegas. Additionally, she received a Horizon Award nomination from the Country Music Association in the same year. May 1, 2007 saw the release of her second studio album, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. She was the songwriter for 4 of the album's singles and 8 of the album's tracks. The record showed, according to The New Yorker, like another once underappreciated blonde beauty, her personality and talent are on par with Dolly Parton's. But there was an issue. Country radio stations weren't playing Miranda's music. Her tracks never made it past number 15 on Billboard's Hot Country list, which surprised those who were watching the music scene back then. It was really annoying that she couldn't break into the top tier of the singles charts. "I really don't get radio," she said. "I prefer to keep my personality subtle and unassuming. Someone in the million doesn't. Where I went wrong is beyond my comprehension. Furthermore, I would no longer be myself if I changed a single thing. Accordingly, I will not. However, I am quite irritated." Program director for country station Key at the time, Greg Swedenberg, responded to the question of why Miranda's songs wasn't peaking in the top 10s. He said that Miranda was incredibly gifted and that Crazy Ex-Girlfriend was a fantastic album. He had a feeling that the album's purchasers would be happy with their purchase, but he didn't think the CD had any chart-topping potential. "I don't think there's a massive anthem, but I do hear 11 excellent tunes in his lyrics. Among the most repulsive musical compositions I've ever heard, Gunpowder Lead is just delightful. However, I do not believe it deserves to be the top record because it is very angry." Miranda was nominated for a Grammy for Best Female Country Vocal Performance for her song Kerosene, even though her tracks didn't reach the top percentile of country radio. The 2007 Academy of Country Music Awards also presented her with the Top New Female Vocalist trophy. Her 2008 sophomore album, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, took home the trophy for Best Album. On September 29, 2009, she dropped her third studio album, Revolution, the following year. Of the album's 15 tracks, 11 were co-written by her. Lady Antebellum's Dave Haywood and Blake Shelton's Charles Kelly were among the album's other co-writers. Publications such as Slant Magazine, Rolling Stone, and the Boston Globe were quite complimentary of Miranda's third Revolution when it was released. The publication crowned it the year's finest mainstream country album according to Entertainment Weekly. Dead Flowers, her latest single, was released nearly 1 month after she performed it at the 44th Annual Academy of Country Music Awards on April 5, 2009. It peaked at number 40. After its August 17th release, White Liar quickly rose to number 50 on the U.S. Billboard Hot Country Songs list, marking the album's second single. When Miranda's single White Liar peaked at 2 on the U.S. Billboard Hot Country Songs list in February 2010, it was her first top 5 smash. The House That Built Me, the third single from the album, debuted the following month and spent 4 weeks at the top of the U.S. Billboard Hot Country Songs list. It was certified platinum on July 8 by the RIAA. There was yet more to come from Miranda, even if she had accomplished the seemingly impossible. The music video for her album's fourth track, Only Prettier, became an internet sensation. Country music artists Kelly Pickler, Lady Antebellum's Hillary Scott, and Laura Bell Bundy all made guest appearances. Only Prettier became Miranda's sixth top 20 single in December, peaking at number 12 on the US Billboard Hot Country Songs list. At long last, she dropped Heart Like Mine, the album's fifth and last single, and it earned her second consecutive #1 smash in the country music charts. A record 9 nominations for Canadian Music Awards were bestowed upon Miranda by the year's end. Her album Revolution 1 was named Album of the Year, and she was named Female Vocalist of the Year at the 44th Annual Country Music Association Awards, where she also performed. Miranda got off to a great start the following year when she won a Grammy for Best Female Country Vocal Performance for The House That Built Me. She started a new endeavor in 2012 with the formation of the girl group Pistol Annies. Ashley Monroe and Angelina Presley were also part of the group. Their first album, also named Hell on Heels, was released a few months after their May single. First place on Billboard's country album list was the album's debut. Fans were taken aback when they saw Miranda on NBC's long-running legal drama, Father's Shadow, on February 8, 2012. Although she said afterwards that she was a huge fan of the show, this was her first acting role. She said, "I never wanted to act," in response to a question about whether she had become an actress. "Not even now. The acting career isn't for me. Being a groupie for their autographs was really my major motivation for wanting to be on that show." She kept her word and returned to music in 2014 with the release of Platinum, her fifth studio album. 2 years down the road, she dropped her third Pistol Annie album and sixth studio album, The Weight of These Wings. As a headliner at Country to Country, the largest country music event in Europe, in March 2016, she made her international concert debut. While touring Ireland and Scotland, Miranda performed with Dwight Yoakam, Thomas Rhett, and Ashley Monroe. Her 2019 comeback coincided with the release of Wildcard, her seventh studio album. Following its 2021 Grammy victory for Best Country Album, the album received Album of the Year nominations from the American Country Music Association and the Country Music Association of the West. Miranda collaborated with longtime friends John Randall and Jack Ingram on a new project called The Marfa Tapes, which was released in 2021. Even the press said it was her finest effort to date. Then came Pistolotti's Christmas CD and her ninth studio album, Palomino. Love has been a roller coaster for Miranda. It was at 2005's CMT 100 Greatest Duets concert where she initially met singer Blake Shelton. He also reached #1 on the Hot Country Songs chart with his cover of Home by Michael Bublé, which she sang background vocals on. After courting for 4 years, Shelton finally asked Miranda to be his wife in a woodland near her Tishomingo, Oklahoma home on May 9, 2010. Miranda, who was 27 years old at the time, expressed her excitement about getting married. She wanted to tell Blake that she could love him forever and be happy for him. A marriage license was issued to Shelton and Miranda on May 14, 2011. They were married on Saturday night at Bourne, Texas's Don Strange Ranch, which is north of San Antonio. The party went on longer than expected since Dierks Bentley, Kelly Clarkson, Katherine Heigl, Josh Kelly, Laura Bell Bundy, and Dierks Bentley were among the visitors. On July 20, 2015, Shelton and Miranda announced their divorce after 4 years of marriage. We all move ahead at our own speed with sorrowful hearts. This was not the future we envisioned when we put our statement out. Everyone here is a real person with their own life, friends, family, and workplace. Consequently, we humbly ask for your understanding and discretion given the sensitive nature of this situation. Their final public appearance together was at West Virginia's Greenbrier Classic Concert Series. After that, Miranda went on a few more dates. Her divorce was finalized on January 26, 2019, 4 years ago. In addition to her new romance, Miranda startled her admirers by revealing that she had secretly wed Brendan McLaughlin not long before. As we celebrate Valentine's Day, I wanted to share some news with you. The love of my life has finally come. The two of us exchanged vows. She shared 2 heartwarming photos from their wonderful day on Instagram. My heart is overflowing, she continued. Much obliged, Brendan McLaughlin, for loving me just the way I am. In November 2018, Brendan McLaughlin's child from a previous relationship was born. In 2023, Miranda became a stepmother to a 3-month-old baby and co-authored a cookbook called Y'all Eat Yet. She also enjoyed her new family. Holly Gleason and the Titchin' Kitchen crew are here today for Day Street Books' Pretty B***. She also departed Sony Music Nashville that year after 19 years there, which was another transition in her life. Republic Records and Big Loud announced their partnership in April of 2024. With the announcement of the new deal came the news that her 10th studio album, Postcards from Texas, will have the lead track Wranglers, which came out on May 3, 2024. On June 28, 2024, the promotional single Damn It Randy was released. A tune that she and her husband Brendan wrote together. All of it had been through by Miranda. Every step of the way, from the brave little girl who dared to dream big and follow her heart to the strong-willed young lady who refused to let a failed marriage derail her. She has persevered through all obstacles and is now beginning a new chapter in her life with Brendan. Their anticipation of her success is palpable.